Welcome to the next section where we're going to discuss how to add, edit, and delete both a clocking and a calendar event. So to do this, I first need to navigate to my employee section and I need to do a search. Well, we're going to use Sandy Kingsley as our example. So if you'll remember in a previous section, we discussed how to search. I can do a keyword search and pull up Sandy. To open up Sandy's folder, I'm going to click on the Open Folder, and now I'll be looking at her time card screen. And this has a wealth of information here in the center with the transaction list. It shows exceptions, pay distribution. But we want to talk about adding a clocking for Sandy. So I'm going to navigate on my left and scroll down until I see the two green buttons that say Add a Calendar and Add Clocking. So I'm going to select Add Clocking, and I'm going to get a field here where I'm going to enter in some information. Notice that the red asterisks out beside the different fields are required fields, meaning that something has to be entered in this field. But you'll also notice under the special code section that there's already an item in here. So if no special codes are needed, you don't have to enter anything in those codes. You want to select a date. Well, our date range over here is going to be automatically selected for the current pay period, which is the middle. You can also use the calendar view to your right to be able to select a date. Or another quick reference is, if it's today's date, you could simply select and put in T, and it will automatically fill in the correct date. Well, in this example, let's use a date that's in our pay period in our training module. So I'm going to navigate back, and I'm going to pick on the 21st. I've got to enter in a time. It's in military time. And so I'm going to say that she came in at 0700. Now when I do that, I'm going to get this special symbol that says a note is required for this change. So I've got to make a note. So I'm going to click onto the Notes tab, and I'll notice there are some predefined notes over here to the right. In most cases, please try to use a predetermined note when adding this section. So in this case, Sandy lost her badge. So I'm going to select that, it populates the area, and I can hit Save. If I want to see what I've just added, I can scroll down, and I can notice here in this section right here that there was a clocking and that there was a note and when it was added, and that's how you would add a clocking. The next section that we want to cover is how do you edit a clocking. Well, if I want to look at an existing clocking and I want to make an edit to it, it'll be here in the center screen. An easier way to look at this is by only looking at the clockings, the in and out punches. To do that, I'm going to navigate with my transaction list items, and I'm going to unselect calendars. Now all I'm looking at is the in and out clockings. It makes it easier to look at. So I'm going to select one of the punches, and I want to edit this. So to edit any of the clockings, I want to select the red arrow to the right and expand that card. Now I'm looking at some fields where I can modify. In this case, let's say that Sandy actually came in at 1500 instead of 1530. Again, when I make this change, I'm going to get the symbol that says a note is required. So I'm going to select my notes. I'm going to look for a predetermined note. And let's say that she missed her clocking. Once I've entered in that note, I can select Save. And that transaction is correct. Again, notice that I have a punch and a note here to indicate that I've made a change here. In the last section, we want to talk about actually deleting a clocking. So there was something in there, and I actually want to delete that clocking. So let's say that I want to look at the one I just did, and I would select the checkbox and come over to the left, and I would want to hit delete selected. It's going to ask me with a dialog box, you've selected one clocking for deletion. Do you really want to do this? And I'm going to select yes. And that's how easy it is to delete a clocking. Next, we're going to talk about how do you add, edit, and delete calendar events. So let's go back to our green buttons on the left and look at adding a calendar. When I select adding a calendar, I'm going to look at some familiar fields where I've got to look at a date. Again, if I want to look at a date range that's in the current pay period, I need to navigate back, and I'm going to select a date. Pay code. What's the reason here that we want to choose? Well, this is going to be PTO. I've got to enter in a time. So again, this is in military time. I've also got to enter the number of hours or units. And so this, I want to use the decimal point. If I want to make a note here, I can, but I don't have to. This part was not required. To see that, I can select calendars, and I can unselect clockings. And now I can see that on the 22nd at 0700 for 8 hours, I've entered in PTO. Well, again, to edit an existing calendar event, I would select on the arrow button to the right, expand that card, and be able to make my adjustments. You know what? This really is going to be sick time instead of PTO. So I could make the adjustment. And she really started at 0730 for 8 hours. Once I'm done, I can hit save. And you can notice the change here. If I want to delete a calendar event, it works the very same way. I would select the event on the left, come down under transaction list items, and hit delete selected. Again, it's going to ask me, am I sure that I want to delete this? I'm going to click yes. So that's how easy it is to add, edit, and delete both a clocking and a calendar event.